assault.
It's on us.
To not be a bystander.
If you see something, say something.
And to intervene in any way that you can.
It's on us.
If someone does not or cannot consent to sex, that is rape.
Consent is voluntary and mutual. It can be withdrawn at any time.
And past consent does not mean current or future consent.
There is no consent when there is force, intimidation, or coercion.
1 out of every 16 male college students are raped.
And 1 out of every 5 female college students.
Which one of us?
And which one of us?
One thing that we all need to remember is
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stop it at the source.
And to spread the word.
So take the pledge and get involved.
The pledge is a personal commitment to help keep men and women safe from sexual assault.
It is a promise not to be a bystander to the problem.
But to be a part of the solution.
It's on us. It's on us.
It's on us.
Joined courtside by Christina Bach. Coach, we'll start with the history. You've never beaten Southern Maine at home. They've been very good for their entire program history. What does it mean not only to finally do it, but to do it against a really good Southern Maine team in a really important LEC game?
Yeah, big game. I knew they were super disciplined, and obviously we're tied for second. And after Dartmouth, trying to get back to who we are. And I just knew, again, they were so disciplined, you know, with 14 freshmen. Could we match that discipline when we made adjustments and when we were going to go zone a little bit and trap and do different things? And, you know, we didn't shoot the ball great tonight, but yeah, we believed. And that was something at halftime I questioned, were we still locked in? And clearly we were.
54 points from Katie Matthews, Shania Osborne, and Joey Grassi. Talked about needing a third scorer. Well, Joey Grassi came up huge in that second half. We talked a little bit about the first two. What does this mean, especially for Joey, who had been scuffling a little bit the last couple of games, to come out and really make a statement here in the second half?
Yeah, she's a gamer. You know, she missed a lot, like you said, in the first half. And it's funny, we were just talking about that. You take that kid out, you put her in, and she's unconscious. You know, she takes what the defense gives her and doesn't make a lot of mistakes. So this was big for her. And again, every night somebody different. Tonight, Katie, Shania finally can play more than 15 minutes, so she really shows what she can do. I thought Whitney gave great defensive effort. Jelani played a long time with Lydia on the bench. So these kids are now sophomores, and a majority of them are starting to play like it.
Finally, you haven't played that many close games this year. It's kind of a good thing, kind of a bad thing.
Yeah.
Did you learn something about your team tonight in a really close game in conference? You didn't have a lead until the end of the third quarter, and then you had to battle that fourth quarter until the final 30 seconds.
Yeah, I thought we kept our emotions. You know, as a coach, when you get in the huddle, you look at their eyes and you wonder where they're at. And I felt like we were locked in. I felt like we believed, and win or lose, that's all I ask, is we give great effort and we believe for 40 minutes, no matter what the score is. We play the clock. And I thought we did that tonight. A couple great passes. I mean, Joey to Shania. I mean, kids are really starting to, again, look like sophomores and make plays, but this is a big one for us, again, because it was close.
Thanks so much for your time, Coach. The Beacons moved to 7-1 in conference play, all alone in second place. Probably still in second as Dartmouth had a big lead on Rick. Right now we'll take a look at the highlights from the second half and then bring you the final stats and numbers here from the Clark.
Division III allows you to give yourself to other things.
Having that free time allows me to pursue the things that I want to pursue.
Division III athletics affords students the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport.
It allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
And welcome back to Boston for the final time on this women's broadcast. See the final stats. And Gigi, the rebounding ended up where the Beacons needed it. You also see that 2-3 zone. It did a lot of good for Southern Maine in terms of forcing turnovers, but it also caused the Beacons to get creative. 20 assists, certainly towards their season high, and UMass Boston got a lot more patient in that second half. I think they had 13 of their 20 assists in the second half, and it paid off in the long run.
That's exactly what you want to see. At halftime, I'm sure Coach Baugh talked to their team about being a little bit more patient in that 2-3 zone. They got a little bit more comfortable with it, and it helped benefit them for the win.
Right now, we'll take a look at the team leaders. Southern Maine and UMass Boston, pretty balanced. 4 players in double digits for both sides. Joey Grassi, 17 of her 20 points in the second half. She also finished with 12 rebounds. On the other side, Howrigan, who averaged just about 5-6 points a game. She had a really nice night, 16 points on 6 of 11. Chantel Eels had a really strong night, 13 points, 13 rebounds. Shania Osborne finally missed. She finished 8 of 9 on the day for 17 points and 8 rebounds. And a game-high 5 assists from Jelani Jackson, not a name that we necessarily expect for UMass Boston, playing behind Lydia Vital. She had a really strong night. We'll take a look ahead. UMass Boston has a lot of home games upcoming, but two of their next 3 are on the road. At Rick, a team they handled to start off LEC play, and then a tough one. Anytime you have to go down to Eastern Connecticut State, take on a well-coached team, that'll be a tough battle before the Beacons return home on the 7th to host Dartmouth, and then the following Wednesday, they'll be at Southern Maine. 2 very important games as the Beacons have now 6 games left in their LEC schedule. Southern Maine will actually face off against Dartmouth on the 3rd. If you're a Southern Maine fan still watching, we appreciate it. Take a look at our production crew. Working with a lot of talented women tonight. My name is Seth Orensky, your play-by-play guy and producer. Rachel Maslak and Alyssa Fugel, your directors. Alex Gibbs on instant replay. Gigi Braga, my phenomenal color commentator, helping out the directors as well. Melanie Fitzgerald, Cassidy Gaeta, Alyssa Tully, our camera operators with Roxanne Vento, helping out the camera people as well. Thanks so much for watching, folks. A historic night in Boston. UMass Boston earns their first ever win over Southern Maine here in Boston, their 4th ever win against the Huskies, 71-63. Hello and welcome to the Clark Athletic Center for the second game of our doubleheader. We're sorry that we're starting a little bit later than we would like to. UMass Boston women's basketball earned a win in the opener, 71-63, their first ever win over the Huskies here in Boston. So now the men's team will look to complete the first ever doubleheader sweep of the Huskies. Only able to possibly do that because of game number 1. Take a look at these two sides. UMass Boston right in the middle of the pack, tied for 4th place with UMass Dartmouth at 3-4. The Beacons at 9-9. They've not fallen below 500 all season long. Started at 3-0, lost 3 in a row, and then have been bouncing wins and losses. You see the conference standings right now. Eastern Connecticut, Keene, and Western, the top 3 pretty convincingly. The Beacons, though, fighting for their first home playoff game since 2006. See, we'll keep you up to date with the results from the other games throughout the day. Southern Maine's lone win came over Plymouth State last Wednesday. They have not played that well this season. You can see it in their 2-15 record. Lost 7 seniors from last year's team, including 4 starters, and they've relied heavily on the combination of Christian McHugh and DJ Anderson. Right now, we'll take a look at the team statistics, and there'll be a couple stats that'll jump off the page at you. You look at the field goal percentage. UMass Boston, 38.3. Southern Maine, 37.5. We are looking at 2 of the worst shooting teams in the country. These 2 teams do not shoot all that well. Southern Maine is 416th out of 416 teams in field goal percentage shooting. I believe the Beacons are 410th in that category. So shooting is not their forte. The biggest question is, can they do the other things well today? Neither team's rebound all that way. Well, the Beacons, though, the one category where they're very strong, in fact, even ranked nationally, is how well they do in avoiding turnovers. Just 13.2 turnovers per game. That could be a factor today if the Beacons were to pull out the victory. Take a look right now at the team leaders. Mention it. Christian McHugh has had a really strong season. The team's lone player who's averaging double figures, he's at 12 points per game after transferring from McGill University up in Toronto. For the Beacons, they've relied heavily on a couple of freshmen. Charles Mitchell, the team's leading scorer, just behind Christian McHugh, ranked 9th in the conference in scoring. Michael Boyd has been absolutely red hot for UMass Boston. Boyd, in his last 5 games, averaging 19.9 points per game. In his last 2, a pair of conference games, 49 points in 2 games. Those 2, along with Dan Powers, who was added after first semester, have really carried the Beacons in most statistical categories. Real quick, we'll take a look at the all-time series. Southern Maine holds the lead, but not nearly as bad as on the women's side. 47-24. Last year, a pair of really tight games. Southern Maine won by 4 at home, thanks to a nice 4-0 run in the last 16 seconds. The Beacons held on at home, and as it was Zach Leal, the guy who hit the game-winning shot up in Gorham, missing a game-tying 3 to help the Beacons hold on. Dan Powers, who's our player to watch, he had a really strong season last year against Southern Maine. 24-20 up at Southern Maine, the loss, a double-double back at home. He's had 3 double-doubles in 4 games against the Huskies, and this year hasn't played. That should be number 23, Dan Powers, not number 1, Joey Grassi, who was our player to watch in game number 1. But Powers is in the top 3 on the Beacons in points, rebounds, and assists per game. Very impressive stats for the 5th-year senior. While we've got a moment, let's bring you the starters for the University of Southern Maine. They'll go with the same group that fell by 9 to Western Connecticut State on Saturday. Christian McHugh, the senior out of Hampton, Maine, the team's leading scorer and one of their 3 captains. DJ Anderson, the reigning LEC Rookie of the Week out of Houston, Texas. He's averaging 14.7 points and 5.6 rebounds in conference play. Cam Scott, senior out of Hampton, Maine as well. He's averaging a career-high 4.1 points per game and 22.9 minutes a game. Ian Nagel will be the man in the middle, the freshman center out of Bangor, Maine, 6'7", 219, making his 5th start of the year. And Sean Janney, he's another guy to watch. Plymouth State transfers, very long, 6'7", 175. Janney averaging 9.8 points, 5 rebounds, and he leads the conference with 1.5 blocks per game. Bringing the starters right now for UMass Boston, as those 5 will introduce themselves.
Isaac Barnes, combo guard, senior, Roxbury, Mass.
Charlie Mitchell, freshman, point guard, Roxbury, Mass.
Charles Mitchell, shooting guard, freshman, Roxbury, Mass.
Dace Sinelli, sophomore guard / forward, Boston, Massachusetts.
UMass Boston in their home whites with blue numbers and blue trim. Southern Maine in the navy blue roads with the gold numbers and a little bit of white trim on those. It'll be Janney and Dayson Sinelli on the tip. Southern Maine with a pair of 6'7" guys out there. Beacons don't have a player who's in their rotation who's 6'7" or taller. The only guy on the roster is Rob Nascimento, who's only seen about 20 minutes all year long. Southern Maine won the tip back, but it was Charlie Mitchell winning it. His brother Charles gives it off to Dan Powers in an early and 1. Sean Janney called for the foul just 11 seconds in. And Gigi, we see UMass Boston countering the size of Southern Maine with a little bit of their speed.
And that's exactly what the Mitchell twins bring to this game. And that's a great dish over there by Charles over to Dan Powers. And Southern Maine just kind of gave him a little lane to the basket. And then last minute they ended up fouling. So great opportunity for a 3-point play here from Dan.
Powers on the year, 10 of 16 from the free throw line, making 11 of 16. Remember, double-doubles in both games a year ago at Southern Maine, including a monster 24-20 game up at Southern Maine in Gorham. Beacons lead 3-0 on the opening possession. Beacons going in a man-to-man zone. As it's Nagel up top for Janney, was called for that foul. DJ Anderson, who's had the hot hand, goes up over Charles Mitchell, and it's Sinelli ripping down the rebound. One thing to note today, Southern Maine's going to go 13-14 deep. They're already sending a guy to the scorer's table. The Beacons have really limited their rotation to just maybe 8-9 guys the last couple of games. Barnes over for Charles Mitchell, back to Iser Barnes. Another one of the seniors on this Beacons roster that features mostly freshmen. Charlie Mitchell from the elbow. He's been feeling it as of late, knocks it down, coming off a career-high 15 on Saturday against Keene State.
You love to see a point guard like that who's not afraid to shoot the ball. He's not only a great passer, but when you need him to hit that mid-range jumper, he can produce.
Charlie and Charles Mitchell, freshman twins out of New Mission High School. They won a pair of state titles at New Mission before joining the Beacons. UMass Boston with, I believe it's 12 freshmen on the roster at this point after some changes. Sent across for Janney, will shoot over Charles Mitchell. Way strong on that one. Basically wasn't a hand in his face as Janney's so much taller than Charles Mitchell. Charlie Mitchell looks to go to work on Nagel, but will kick it over. Now it's Powers, who had the early and 1 over for Sinelli. Not really his kind of range. Down to 13 on the shot clock for Barnes. Barnes will drive in, and he can't finish over Janney. Tries to go up. They're going to say that he bobbled it. Now we're going to get a jump ball. Possession arrow, Southern Maine.
And you love to see that great aggressiveness from Iser Barnes there. But when you got 3 Huskies surrounding you like that, and at the stature that you're at when you got Janney, who's 6'7", you're not really going to get the shot off there. So I'd love to see Iser Barnes kind of get a quick dish out if you got 3 guys collapsing on you.
UMass Boston still in this full court pressure against the Southern Maine team that doesn't have a ton of ball handlers. This will get a reach-in call. I believe it's going to be Powers who looks irritated. on the foul on McHugh. So Powers is first, 1 foul apiece on the two sides here, a minute 59 in. Today's referees, Ryan Holy, Jay Walsh, and Matt Dorn. 3-man crew for this LEC conference battle. Anderson to the tin, too strong. Rebound will bounce out, and it's picked up by Charlie Mitchell. Ahead for Barnes, threads the needle, and Barnes finishes with a scoop.
And that's just a beautiful pass there. Was Charlie Mitchell?
Charlie Mitchell.
Charlie Mitchell was a beautiful pass. That went a good 10 or 15 feet there, and Iser Barnes, easy finish.
Charlie Mitchell has looked like a different guy since coming back from a knee injury first semester. His confidence is way up as there's the first point of the day for Sean Janney in Southern Maine, cutting the deficit to 7-2. My name is Seth Dorensky, joined by Gigi Braga for both ends of this Little East Conference doubleheader. Deacons women's team won by 8 in game number 1. Cross for Charlie Mitchell for Barnes. Now Sinelli double teamed. Has to kick it out for Charles Mitchell. Wide open. Powers from the wing. He drew contact. No call, and the rebound falls out of bounds. Jason Harris, the Beacons head coach, can only look and question the lack of a call. On the other side, Carl Henriksen, Southern Maine's head coach, former Husky great in his 15th year with the program, as it's stolen away by Charles Mitchell. Charlie got there in time, but it goes off his knee and out of bounds. The Beacons couldn't quite connect on that possession.
Something that the Huskies are definitely going to have to keep up with the Beacons is their pace of play. Especially when the Mitchell twins are out there, they like to have that high intensity, that high pace of play, and Huskies might not be adequate to that yet.
Well, Kristen McHugh might be. That was a great drive from the McGill transfer. Played 3 years up at Southern Maine, a former Mr. Maine basketball back in 2012. And he has his first points of the day. 4-0 run for Southern Maine to cut it back within 3. Powers trying to thread the needle for Sinelli. It's stolen away, and it's picked up by Anderson. Charlie Mitchell went for the steal. Instead, it leads to a Christian McHugh triple, and it's a 7-0 run to tie the game.
And Charlie Mitchell's got to be a little bit more careful on that. He could have easily been called for a foul there, and that's what you don't want is those easy fouls at the beginning of the game.
Southern Maine has dropped into his zone. It looks like a 3-2 right now against the smaller Beacons. Barnes gets the pump fake. Anderson went up in the air. Barnes just throws it up wildly, and it's into the hands of Anderson. Anderson tight roping along the baseline. Strong drive with the left hand. Southern Maine scored 9 straight, and Jay Harris will call his first timeout. Not happy with his team's defensive effort. We'll take a timeout along with the teams as this will be stretched out to a media. Southern Maine leading 9-7.
The University of Massachusetts Boston. It's just minutes from downtown, and the Princeton Review calls it one of the best values in the country. A nationally recognized institution of academic excellence and research, UMass Boston offers more than 150 undergraduate and graduate programs, 16 Division III sports, and more than 100 student organizations. To learn more about the opportunities waiting for you at UMass Boston, visit in person or online. UMass Boston, a research university.
Southern Maine has come out hot after a slow start. They've scored 9 in a row to take the lead. The Huskies will go to their bench coming out of the timeout. The big man, Ian Nagel, has been replaced by Cam Scott. No, I got that one wrong. Who's the new player out there? There is one new face replacing Nagel. Up top for Charles Mitchell. Dan Powers down low for Sinelli, and Sinelli can't quite finish over Janney.
I really thought Powers was going to take a shot on that one. It definitely looked like he was going to go up for the basket as we see a foul here called on the Beacons. I believe that's going to be Sinelli.
And it will be Sinelli's first. UMass Boston will push forward trying to get that full court pressure out there. It's actually, the new man is Donnie Agasu, the senior guard out of Lewiston, Maine, who's in for the first time as Powers forces the turnover. Charles Mitchell pushing the pace. Charlie had the 3, he'll pass it up. Now it's Powers driving baseline, but first he stepped out of bounds. Jason Harris implores his team to stay up. We'll see how long the Beacons keep this full court pressure out there. Looking a little bit more at Agasu, who's 6'2", 195, so still would be one of the bigger players on the Beacons roster. On the year, averaging 5.1 points and 3.8 rebounds. Agasu into the corner. Scott the triple, it's too strong. And Anderson able to grab the rebound over the smaller Charles Mitchell. Agasu drives, kicks it out. Anderson will try his hand at a three. This one rims in and out. And Charles Mitchell gets it on the second effort. Mitchell does average north of 4 rebounds a game. Powers into the corner for Charlie Mitchell. Right back for Powers. Now it's Barnes. Barnes for Charlie Mitchell, who hit an early jumper, but really it's Charles Mitchell who's the three-point shooter. Tops in the conference with over 50 makes and 150 attempts. 8 on the shot clock. Charles Mitchell will try his hand at a first three of the day and knocks it down, but Charles is noticeably hobbled right now, and he's going to need to come out as we've got a foul on Iser Barnes. He's not happy with it, but that'll give the Beacons a chance to replace Charles Mitchell, who hopefully it's just a cramp right now, as Mitchell has been so good for UMass Boston this year.
I think that foul isn't going to go on Iser. I think it's going to go on Jason Sinelli, and that's his second already, which puts him in a little bit of trouble because he's one of those guys that Jason Harris loves to use as a rebounding force and a guy to really get those points in the paint, which they're definitely going to need against this tall Huskies team.
Just 5:32 into the game. Sinelli picks up his second. Southern Maine will go back to the bench. Mentioned that they're going to do a lot of that today. Keenan Hendricks, the sophomore guard out of Owl's Head, Maine, and he drives, kicks it out for Janney, who's short. Hendricks has played in all 17 games this year, averaging 4.8 points and 1.4 rebound. Powers kicks it across for Charles Mitchell, and it's out of bounds off of Charles as he ran into Christian McHugh. The Beacons made a pair of changes. Sinelli coming off because of foul trouble, replaced by James Hawkins, senior out of West Medford, a Bridgewater State transfer, one of the Beacons' better defenders. And James Morgan, who rarely sees time, is in for Charles Mitchell. He's wearing 32 and guarding the ball right there. A junior college transfer in because of the injury to Charles Mitchell. Big block from Hawkins. That's what I was talking about. And it'll stay with Southern Maine with 13 on the shot clock.
And you got to wonder, where's Mike Boyd? He wasn't in the starting lineup. And usually if he's not in the lineup, he's usually one of the first off the bench. With Charles Mitchell hurt, I would expect to see him.
McHugh comes off of a screen and draws the foul on Morgan. That'll be 3 free throws. And this is the guy you don't want to foul. Looking at some of the numbers on Christian McHugh, and they are just really eye-popping. McHugh on the season, shooting 89.3%, best in the conference. So he misses the first, so there's the broadcaster's jinx for you. But this is a guy who had 23 free throw attempts last Wednesday in a win over Plymouth State. He went 20 of 23. Set a program record for makes in a game. And he's the guy you have to keep off of the line as he knocks down the second to tie the game at 10. See more substitutions for Southern Maine. They'll bring in Sergio Martin Acuna, junior guard out of Barcelona. And they have another player waiting to replace McHugh, who knocks down 2 of 3. It'll be Grayson Waterman, junior out of Berwick, Maine, replacing McHugh. And for UMass Boston, they're going to get Charles Mitchell back in there immediately, and he'll replace Iser Barnes. So Charles, fortunately, appears to be okay.
Still wondering who Michael Boyd is, though.
So on the bench, he's got his warm-up on. It is odd, as Boyd was, according to Jason Harris, their best player in the win over Dartmouth, a nice road win last Wednesday, in a battle between two teams fighting for home court advantage, and then scored a career high and team best 25 points on Saturday in a 6-point loss to Keene State. Morgan over for Powers, for Hawkins, right back for Powers, deep too, and a long rebound falls into the hands of Ergasu. Hendricks will man the point. UMass Boston continues to play in a man-to-man. Southern Maine has been using zone for the most part. It's Waterman coming off a season-high 9 points on Saturdays. Charlie Mitchell will be called for the reach-in against Hendricks. That's now 5 fouls on the Beacons, 1 on Charlie Mitchell, to just 1 foul on Southern Maine.
That's what I'm talking about here, Seth, is as the game goes on, there's 13 minutes left into this first half. Beacons already have 5 fouls. Sooner or later, they're going to get into the bonus, maybe even the double bonus, and that's just bad news.
Wide open. Hendricks from the corner can't make the Beacons pay. Anderson comes away with the rebound amongst 5 players and knocks in the lefty lay-in. Anderson has been red hot for Southern Maine the last couple of weeks. Stepped up as their second best scorer. Charlie Mitchell gives it off to Charles Mitchell, and he knocks down a second 3 to tie the game at 13.
And just the chemistry that these two have from playing together all of their high school careers and now playing together in college here, it's just they know where each other's going to be on the court.
These two guys play a lot of basketball, played AAU together, played summer league, obviously high school together, and they said that they wanted to play together in college. Got a hack there on Hawkins trying to deny Agasu. 16 fouls now on the Beacons in the opening 7:36. But you got to love the fact that the Twins were telling college coaches, we want to play together, and if that means we have to play Division III, then we're fine with it. So originally they were hoping for low D1, D2 looks, and eventually the Beacons were the very happy team to get a signature from those two. As we'll see Mike Boyd check in for the first time. 7:36 in. He started pretty much every game, so whatever punishment Jason Harris was putting on him didn't last all that long.
Oh, you love to see Michael Boyd come to the game, just the diversity that he brings, and he gives players like Powers more open looks, and he's a lethal weapon from the three-point range, and, you know, he's a great passer as well.
Agasu now 14 of 21 on the year, 66.6%. It's Boyd up top. As I mentioned, he's been red hot. 19.9 points per game his last 5, 24.5 points per game averaging last 2. As Boyd will take it from the wing, and he can't quite connect on that one. Hawkins tried to keep it alive, and Charlie Mitchell apparently saved it, but he saves it to the wrong team. Strong drive from Waterman, draws contact, and it's a charge. Charles Mitchell gives up the body. Waterman can't believe it. And that's just the second foul on Southern Maine as Carl Hendrickson has his hands up as if asking where the feet and hands were on that one, as we've got immediate timeout. And we'll take a break with the teams. Southern Maine leads by a single point with 11:52 to go in the first half.
Celebrate the soggy shoes and the slow starts. Celebrate the lessons learned along the way. These are the wins. Not the shiny, nail-biting kind. These are the last a lifetime kind.
See the Beacons huddling up around Jason Harris and Jamie Morrison, former MCLA head coach who came to UMass Boston to be a professor. Actually, I believe he's actually in academic advising, having some words as well for the Beacons, who trail by a single point, looking to earn what would be a pivotal home win today to get back to 500 in conference and stay at 500 or above overall. Southern Maine just keeps on channeling their players in and out. Right now we've got another new sighting. Kevin Weiser, the junior guard out of Windham, New Hampshire, checks in for the first time for the Beacons. Jake Smith, their freshman big, 6'5", will see time for the first time as well. It's Smith working on Acuna. Nice little couple moves, and he draws the foul on the Spaniard. So he'll head to the line for a pair of free throws.
That's exactly what Coach Jason Harris wants from Jake Smith. You know, a guy, big, tall guy coming off the bench, working in those bigs and getting those points that he needs. You know, giving Hawkins a break and Kevin Lewis-Jean and, you know, even guys like Dan Powers.
Smith, a 62.9% free throw shooter. Now 22 of 36 after the miss. Sergio Martin Acuna is an interesting case. He's a junior transfer out of the College of Almeida. He's also playing soccer for Southern Maine. They had a really good year this year, despite not making the conference tournament. A lot more competitive than they had been the last couple years. And Smith makes 1 of 2 as the Beacons keep this full court pressure on. They've shown it the entire first half thus far. Weiser with the ball on the far side, had a couple of cutters. Now it's Martin Acuna. Fake the handoff to Waterman, gives it off to Anderson. Lone starter still out there. Hendricks calling out the signs with 7 on the shot clock, guarded by Boyd from straight away. Gives it out to Martin Acuna, drives down low. He's stripped, but they're going to give the foul with 2 seconds left on the shot clock.
That's great basketball there by Southern Maine. You're working down the shot clock really well, as you saw them pulling out the ball, calling a play for it, and that's easy points right there that he can easily earn from the charity stripe.
Foul is on Charlie Mitchell, his second. So now 2 on Dayson Sinelli, 2 on Charlie Mitchell. Iser Barnes will replace Charlie with 11:09 to go. DJ Anderson will check out. Christian McHugh back in there. So Southern Maine's going to keep one of their top 2 scorers in at least as much as possible, as the long rebound nearly fell to Waterman for Southern Maine. Barnes eventually collects as we're tied at 14. Boyd still looking for those first points. Mitchell from the same exact spot. He's hit 3 threes, including 2 in a row. He's got 9 of the Beacons' first 17, and they lead by 3 almost halfway through the first half.
Pretty sure that's his sweet spot on the court there. He's hit all of his threes tonight have been from that exact same spot.
So we've got a foul the other way. Southern Maine, an illegal screen. I think it's going to be Martin Acuna from his facial expression. It is. So he's picked up 2 fouls quickly, and he'll be replaced by Janney, one of the team starters. Cam Scott comes back in as well. So Southern Maine sending back in their starters with 10:44 to go. And the funny thing is, Charles Mitchell is a top 3-point shooter. He's in the top 100 in 3-point made field goals, 3-point attempted field goals, and that's his spot. How does he keep getting open?
That's what the Beacons do, is they move the ball really well around, and they penetrate inside of the paint, and then they dish it out to him. They get those open looks.
Iser Barnes couldn't hold on to the dribble, and then he tried to shovel it over for Charles Mitchell, who was moving the other way, and the Beacons with an unforced turnover. Barnes with some good defense here against McHugh, but this is typically where he gets called for fouls. Was able to avoid getting called for a foul there despite contact. Scott up top for Weiser. Great left-handed pass for Janney, driving downhill, throws it up wildly, catches the front of the rim, and falls down hard. Smith, a really dangerous place to stop right at the half-court line, and the Beacons will set up their offense. Smith working on Janney. He's blocked. Ball falls to Waterman. Waterman going 1-on-3. Behind the back dribble, runs into Boyd. No call. And I think that might have been the right call there with minimal contact.
And that's something you love to see from Waterman there. He just took on 3 Beacons, and he wasn't afraid to either get called to the charge, and he just took that ball straight to the hoop, got those 2 easy points.
Smith from the baseline. Now it's back to the near side for Boyd. Finds Powers. Smith underneath the basket. Already been blocked once by Janney. This time he'll hit the side of the rim. Barnes coming in, gets a hand in, and that's going to be the 7th, maybe 8th Beacons foul. 8 fouls now on UMass Boston, the opening 10:28, as Barnes is going to be called for the reach, and Dayson Sinelli will check in with his 2 fouls. As Iser Barnes, the good news is that's only his first. He's a guy who's quite frequently in foul trouble.
Well, the good thing here for the Beacons is you foul Sean Janney, who's only shooting 56.5% from the free throw line, so not the most lethal guy.
And Janney misses the front end of the 1-and-1. The Beacons will give up potentially one more 1-and-1 before Southern Maine shooting 2. Team fouls now 8-4 in favor of Southern Maine. Smith couldn't make the catch underneath the basket. Boyd now looks to drive, finds Mitchell from the corner, not his spot, and it ends up being tipped into the hands of Powers with the left hand. He can't finish, and this time Sean Janney grabs the rebound. Janney was a little used reserve at Plymouth State, but he's been a consistent starter for Southern Maine, including what a debut he had with the Huskies. 42 points in the opener against the University of New England. He's yet to score 14 since, as Waterman's short on the runner. Barnes ahead to Boyd. Charles Mitchell fakes it and then takes the 3. This one rattles out. Barnes can't get the rebound to go, and the Beacons had 2 guys crash into each other, causing that missed shot. UMass Boston just inches away from 3, not 2 points on that possession.
And the interesting thing there is, even I thought that ball was going to go in there, and I'm pretty sure that Powers and Barnes thought the exact same thing, and that's why the collision ended up there.
2 Beacons at the scorer's table, 1 Southern Maine player, 8:15 to go, 5 on the shot clock. McHugh drives hard, and we're going to get a block call. Believe it'll be on Charles Mitchell. Dan Powers is there as well. It'll be Charles Mitchell's first, as the Beacons have tried to spread the wealth when it comes to fouls. 2 on Charlie Mitchell and Dason Sinelli, 1 on several other Beacons. So it'll be Smith and Powers to the bench, replaced by Hawkins and Houghton. That's Dennis Houghton, the Beacons' freshman swingman, who doesn't see all that much time. Houghton appearing in just his 10th game, averages 6.6 minutes a game. So McHugh, the 89% free throw shooter, hits the front end of the 1-and-1. This is his 5th free throw attempt. He's 4 of 5 on the day. And that, again, Gigi, not the guy you want going to the free throw line, especially early in the game, as Barnes tries to hit the transition 3, and he gets fouled by Agasu. So there's a mental mistake on Southern Maine to give the Beacons 3 free throws.
Well, for now, when you got a game that's so close at 17-18, but the Beacons already have 9 fouls. There's still 8 minutes left in this half. The Huskies only have 5 to give, and although Barnes got fouled here for 3 foul shots, and you see he's a little worked up there that he didn't get the first one to go down, but these foul shots are they're gonna come down to haunt you in the end, you know. And when you get guys on both ends of the court who are great free throw shooters like McHugh is, you know, that's where the Huskies might pull away in this game.
Barnes hits the final 2 to go 2 of 3. The Beacons are going deeper and deeper into their bench. They used 7-8 guys the last 2 games. Well, today they've already gone close to 10 deep. It's John Tessin, freshman out of Bridgewater, making his 10th appearance on the year, averaging just 6.3 minutes per game. Saw less than a minute on Saturday as Charles Mitchell draws the easy call on Christian McHugh, who says, "Who, me?" But we've been seeing that called all night long from this officiating crew.
And you love to see that from Charles Mitchell there. You get that great rebound, and you just start pressing the ball, and they're going to either stop you or they're going to get away from you and give you an easy lane to the basket.
16 fouls on Southern Maine, 9 on the Beacons. It'll be UMass Boston ball coming out of our media timeout. 1-point game overall.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
.7:53 to go in half number 1. It's been a very closely contested game. The Beacons ran out to a 7-0 lead. Southern Maine responded with a 9-0 run, and ever since it's been a 1-possession game. UMass Boston out of the timeout with Charles Mitchell, Michael Boyd, James Hawkins Jr., Dennis Houghton, and John Tessin. They lead by a single point. Tessin looking for Houghton right in front of the Southern Maine bench. Back for Boyd, to the near side for Charles Mitchell, who's run off his favorite spot by McHugh. Boyd from the elbow for Houghton, who will look to drive by and tried to slip it through there for Tessin, but he couldn't find him. Those two guys might have some good chemistry playing on the Beacons' second or third unit, but unable to execute as there's a 3 that's just off the mark from Cam Scott. Boyd into the front court for Charles Mitchell and now Hawkins. Beacons really only have the 2 scorers out there in Charles Mitchell and Michael Boyd, their top 2 scorers overall. Charles Mitchell back from Boyd, front rim no good. Houghton had the rebound, but he bounced it right off the white, and the Beacons will give it back to the Huskies.
And that's the struggle there about getting a rebound, and exactly where he got it is you come down with it, and if you don't get the perfect touch on it, the line's right there. It's a little closer than you expected. Dennis Houghton with an unlucky touch there.
Anderson, the backdoor cut to McHugh. Perfect pass from Christian McHugh. Southern Maine takes the lead back 20-19.
That's something that the Beacons have to stop McHugh from getting to the basket so easily like that. They basically just gave him an open lane and said, hey, here, take 2 points.
John Tessin nearly lost the ball and his footing at the same time. Gets it back from Hawkins. Beacons have gone stagnant with this group of 5 out there. Tessin drives baseline. Finds Houghton, couldn't make the catch. Double teamed, wide open Mitchell. Hawkins won it on the baseline. Now he drives with 4. He's blocked by Janney. Ball's loose. And we've got a tie-up. Nice job by Houghton to get a hand in there. and it'll go back to the Beacons. So some good hustle from Dennis Houghton, who will be replaced by Powers, and Carl Henriksen is irate with the lack of a reaching call on Dennis Houghton.
Well, Sean Janney over on the other side here for the Huskies, standing at 6'7". He's already got 2 huge blocks today in the game, and the Beacons got to figure out a way to get to the hoop and get into the paint and some way around him.
Well, he's 6'7", he's very long, and he's very thin. So he's a guy who has good agility but can be maybe abused by a true big man that the Beacons don't necessarily have. This is a game where Janney leads the conference in blocks per game, could feast. Boyd the long 2 as well, short. Still looking for those first points today after spending the first 7+ minutes on the bench. 1 point Southern Maine lead with 5:55 to go in the half. Cam Scott back for McHugh's. Been pretty good offensively for Southern Maine here in the first half. Anderson a contested 3, too strong. Hawkins taps the rebound to Charles Mitchell. Mitchell with a ton of speed, looking to go all the way. Finally slowed down by McHugh. And Christian McHugh can't believe that foul. And honestly, I can't blame him. That was very little contact, and it'll be the second foul on Southern Maine's leading scorer.
But when you get a ref like this, that they're going to call every little thing that he got there. Charles Mitchell's taking advantage of that, and that's the second time that he's already pressed the ball a little bit to get Christian McHugh to give him a little bit of contact, and the refs are going to call it in his favor.
17 foul on Southern Maine, which will lead to the 1-and-1. Charles Mitchell, not a great free throw shooter, though. That's his biggest weakness, 47.9%, 23 of 48. So he can't get it to go. Back rim, front rim, everywhere but down. Southern Maine will avoid any points on that possession, as there's an easy call, a little bit of contact between Anderson and Tessin. Tessin's called for his first, and the Beacons 10th, so 2 free throws upcoming for the Houston native. And Gigi, we were mentioning an off-air amongst our crew. This game has seemed to not only drag a little bit, but there's no consistency, there's no rhythm to this game with all the fouls we've seen here in the first half.
It's only been, at most 21 points over here by Southern Maine. 22 now that Anderson hit that free throw. And like you said, Seth, there's no rhythm to it. It's not like teams are going back and forth and they're generating momentum for each other. It's a basket, a stop, a stop again, and then maybe another basket. And we're maybe look a little bit for some more rhythm in the second half as Dan Powers gets fouled there and going for 3 points.
It's the third time I think we've had a 3-point shooter fouled. We've got DJ Anderson called for his first, and now a technical on Carl Henriksen. So the Beacons are going to be shooting at least 4 free throws. See who heads to the line. My bet would be on Michael Boyd, who's yet to score today and an 80+% free throw shooter. But instead it's going to be Powers, who's going to take 3. Why not give him 4? So the senior will have a chance to not only give the Beacons a tie, but a potential lead. And that's the 19th foul on Southern Maine. So we've already seen at least 19 fouls and 1 technical. Powers knocks down the first. That's the technical free throw. Still should have 3 more. Powers too strong on the second. Dan on the season shooting 10 of 16 to come into the day. Last year, a 71.7% free throw shooters and a lot more attempts.
They're going to give him 3 now.
So 2 free throws for the technical. And now he has 3 more. So he's going to really get a chance to work on his stroke. He's 2 of 3 to start. Kevin Lewis-Jean heads to the scores table. First time we'll have seen the Beacons big, who to start the year was their starting centers. Powers rattles on the second to tie the game. He's now 3 of 4. Don't often see a guy shoot 5 free throws, and he'll have a chance to give the Beacons the lead.
It's like in practice, at the end of practice, you're always shooting around free throws, and I guess it came in handy for him. He hit 4 out of the 5.
So Powers misses the second, knocks down 3 in a row, and the Beacons, thanks to a foul on the 3-point shot by Anderson and then the technical foul on Henriksen, take the lead. 5 minutes to go in the half. Remember, these are 2 of the worst shooting teams in the entire country. Not just the conference. We're talking the entire Division III, 416 teams. Southern Maine is dead last. The Beacons are in the bottom 10. And it's shown a little bit today. Tessin drives baseline, nearly lost the dribble, throws it up, airballs it over Janney, and McHugh with the rebound. Agasu's out ahead of the pack, but McHugh keeps it himself. Cam Scott into Agasu for 3, drains it, and the Huskies have the lead back by 2.
Is that the first Huskies 3 that we've seen all day?
I think that's the first 3 from anyone not named Charles Mitchell.
It's a good way to put it there, Seth.
Because the Beacons aren't shooting it all that well as Boyd misses another one. This is a guy who was red hot, and he's at least 0 for 4, maybe 0 for 5 at this point. Powers back up top for Boyd as the Beacons get a new 30. Boyd almost got caught up in the air, finds Charles Mitchell with 4:05 to go. Boyd from the corner, and that one hits the front of the rim. Michael Boyd does not have it going on today, the freshman out of Malden.
Oh, maybe it's a little slow start there. It's got 3 minutes left here in this first half, and you know some people need that first half to get a little jitters out, and maybe he'll come through in the second half.
McHugh over for Anderson. Agasu just hit 1. Charles Mitchell a little bit closer this time. Down to 7 on the shot clock. What can Christian McHugh do? Drives on Boyd, kicks it over. DJ Anderson from just in front of the NCAA sign, and he's a little bit off the mark. Charles Mitchell with 4 defenders back will have to pull it out. Powers across for Charles Mitchell. Tesson headed to the baseline. He'll grab it, 8-footer, and that one's off the mark. Kevin Lewis-Jean, his first touch. It's an offensive rebound. New 30 with 3 minutes left. Powers tries his hand off the side of the backboard, and we've got a tie-up. It'll go to Southern Maine. Carl Hendrickson is having some fun with these refs. He is not happy, but already has 1 technical. Can't pick up a second with this much time left. We'll take our final media time out of the half. Southern Maine leads 25-23 in a low-scoring first half here at the Clark.
Cheer for the stumbles. The he shoulda had that's. And the tears that linger. For in those moments, greatness lies. There you will find the provoked, the determined, the unified. It's in those moments that champions are born.
Beacons out of their huddle well ahead of Southern Maine. UMass Boston will keep the same 5 out there. Lewis-Jean, Barnes, Charles Mitchell, Michael Boyd, and Dan Powers. For Southern Maine, they're going to go back to the bench. It'll be McHugh, Scott, Janning, Anderson, and it looks like the new man out there is Kevin Weiser, who saw 3 or 4 minutes earlier on in the half. Anderson into the corner for Scott. Good kick. Southern Maine's hit back-to-back threes, and they have their largest lead of the game at 28-23.
After that timeout, I'm sure Coach Henderson must have talked to them and said, like, hey, like we need to get some rhythm going here. We need to kind of bury this team because it's been going back and forth with them.
Barnes tried to find Powers, couldn't make the catch, and then when he collected it, it's rejected by Janney, who already has at least 3 blocks in this first half. McHugh working on Boyd. He can make an impact defensively here. McHugh forced to pick up the dribble, and he's called for the travel. Well, there was contact, but referees are sometimes letting it go and sometimes calling every little thing as a frustrated McHugh heads to the bench. Keenan Hendricks, the team's backup point guard, heads back out there. Boyd looking for Powers, who had his back turned. It's picked up by Scott, and out ahead of the pack is Hendricks, who can't finish. Charles Mitchell rushing back, and that forces the missed shot. Barnes leaves it off for Charles Mitchell. Back for Barnes, and finds Mitchell from the other wing this time. 4 threes, all from the wings, and he's keeping the Beacons in this game down 2.
And Charles Mitchell, just a great play on that defensive end there. Getting the stop, picking up the slack from Michael Boyd there, and then just generating that defensive, momentum into his offensive game.
Controlled by Hendricks. Over for Weiser, who wants to try his hand. Southern Maine can't hit 3 threes in a row. That would be a hot streak for either of these sides today. Over for Boyd. Powers wants to drive, loses it, and they're going to call a jump ball there. it's kind of a 50-50 call where neither coach is going to be happy. Southern Maine wanted to travel. Jason Harris wanted to reach in, and instead it'll stay with UMass Boston as they had the possession arrow.
A little compromise there from the refs.
Charles Mitchell in for Powers, who has gotten his rebounds today. Hasn't been great offensively against the team he dominated last year. Lewis Jean from the corner, unable to connect. Minute 9 to go in this first half. It has seemed to move slowly, but we're closing in on the break. Near side, Scott picks it up for Janney. 15 on the shot clock. Driving on the smaller Lewis Jean. Off the glass. A beautiful move from the 6'7" big man.
I even think Kevin Lewis Jean might have gotten a hand in there, but when Janney's so long and he's big like that, it's very hard to stop him when he's going in the paint.
Charles Mitchell will try his hand at another. This one's an air ball well off the mark. And a chance for Southern Maine to extend this lead out. Right now there is about an 11-second difference between game clock and shot clock. The Beacons will get it back, but what will the score be? Already down 4. Their largest deficit of the game was 5. Anderson with 12 on the shot clock. Back to the near side for Hendricks. Hendricks calling out directions. Tries to find Janney, who slips through right to the hoop, and he pushes it to 6. The Beacons have 13 left as Charles Mitchell is going to slowly bring it up. Mitchell's had the lone hot hand for UMass Boston in the half. Gets it back from Powers with 4. Working on Scott. Mitchell over for Boyd. Can he get his first points of the half? Rims in and out. The Beacons will head to the break, down 2 possessions against the 2-15 team. We'll head to a commercial, and then we'll be back with the head coach, Jason Harris, who I'm sure is not too happy with this side after these first 20 minutes.
The University of Massachusetts Boston, with its scenic oceanfront campus, easily accessible to downtown Boston, is recognized as a model of excellence for urban public universities. 16 NCAA Division III sports are part of the more than 100 student organizations that create an engaging campus life in America's biggest and best college town. UMass Boston, Boston's urban public research university for the 21st century.
Coach Jason Harris. Coach, we talked yesterday and you said despite their record, this team was dangerous. What's been your biggest issue here in the first half?
Energy, effort, focus, maturity. We got to find a way. Both their wins have came on the road this year, so they're very capable of winning on the road, and not a great half for us.
Offensively, Charles Mitchell has 4 threes. He's in double digits.
We're taking too many threes, Seth. We're taking too many threes. Again, more threes than free throws. Again, it's not a recipe for us.
What do you tell your team? Is there any...
To drive the ball and play tougher.
Wasn't quite the question I was going to ask him, but we'll see if the Beacons can do that in the second half. Right now, we'll take a look at the highlights from Saturday's game, an 82-76 loss to Keene State.
Division III allows you to give yourself to other things.
Having that free time allows me to pursue the things that I want to pursue.
Division III athletics affords students the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport.
It allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
And welcome back to the Clark Athletic Center. UMass Boston down by 6 at the break. It was not a happy Jason Harris, upset with his team's effort and really their offensive performance. Right now we'll take a look at the team statistics and see just how bad it was. UMass Boston, we talked about neither of these teams shooting all that well this year. Well, Southern Maine, 40.7%, slightly above their season average. UMass Boston, 23.3%. The Beacons 7 of 30 from the field. The one thing that helped them out, 4 of 13 for distance and 8 of 12 from the free throw line, as they held slight edges in both of those categories over Southern Maine. Rebounds even for two teams that both struggle there. And the Beacons with 8 turnovers. Their season average is just 13. So, Gigi, there's a lot to improve upon, especially on the offensive end.
And Coach Harris said it at his halftime interview. He said they're shooting a lot of threes. Personally, I disagree a little bit with that. When you get a guy like Charles Mitchell, who's the hot hand, and that's his mantra, is shooting threes, you got to let the kid do what he does best. Obviously, some of them are not going to fall, but that's why you got your bigs over there to rebound when that doesn't happen. Obviously, if you don't get guys who can do that, then I can see his point there. But guys like Michael Boyd, who's not too hot right now, Dan Powers as well from the three-point line, it's going to come. It's going to get there, Maybe this was just target practice for the first half, and the second half they're going to produce a little bit more. The Beacons have to do a better job on the defensive end, though. They need to start getting more stops and generating that as their momentum into their offense.
Well, the Beacons are 4 of 13 for distance. Charles Mitchell's 4 of 8. Dan Powers and Michael Boyd are 0 for 5. That equals their 4 for 13 performance. Right now we'll take a look at our team leaders. Charles Mitchell has carried the offense. He's got 12 points, as that's not the right graphic. There we go. Charles Mitchell has 12. Dan Powers has 7, thanks to a 5 of 6 performance from the free throw line. On the other side, Christian McHugh, he's been held quiet from the field, just 2 of 2, but he does have 4 of 5 from the free throw line. Janny's been a real difference maker. 6 points, 7 rebounds, 4 blocks. Now, Gigi, I'm not trying to be a heightest person here, but you're not the tallest player. You played 4 years of high school basketball. How do you mentally prepare yourself when you know that team has a good shot blocker that's having success? How do you keep going? How do you persevere and not just give up on taking shots around the basket?
You gotta find a way, and either if it's pump faking and trying to get him to go up and then trying the contact there, or maybe just even penetrating into the paint and dishing it out to your guys, to your shooters who can hit the mid-range shot, who can hit the three-point shot, stuff like that. But when Janney is off the court, that's when the Beacons need to capitalize on their bigs. Get them into foul trouble. Maybe even start getting Janney into foul trouble. When you got a guy who stands at 6'7", he's long, he's big like that, you have to know that you're not going to get those easy layups that you normally would. Maybe look for those transition points. Look for your speed. Get those steals, those easy one-on-ones. That's what's going to get the Beacons back into this game.
Unfortunately for UMass Boston, 18 fouls in that first half. Sean Janney was not called for one of them. Right now we'll take a look at the LEC scoreboard. And we've got 2 of the 3 scores for you right now. Keene State is dominating Plymouth State. Keene State suffered a loss last week at home to Eastern Connecticut State. Has come out, beat the Beacons on Saturday, and dominating Plymouth right now. EastCon in a low-scoring game with Western Con, 20-16. I believe that's still in the first half. And I'm not sure if UMass Dartmouth Rhode Island College has started yet. That's why we might be without a score, as our game started right on time, and maybe they're having some difficulties down there at Southern Maine, either with the live stats or something else. Right now, we'll take a look at the highlights from women's basketball's win on Saturday against Keene State, 73-40 rout to ensure the Beacons would earn their second ever season sweep of the Owls. They earned a win earlier tonight against Southern Maine's women's team. First ever win in Boston against the Huskies.
Side, Raven Kelsey from long range, off back iron it out. Good offensive rebound. Near side, Matthew Kelsey, pop fake, nice dribble drive, dance it off to Quinones. Nice drive with the left hand and three-point line, hands off down low. Rejection from UMass Boston. Deep spot that came in with just 9 players. And there's a beautiful defensive play by Purcell, but an even better effort. Dishes it out for Grassi from long range. Gets a roll, rebound, and lays it out. By the duo in the backcourt. Connected there. 30 seconds on the shot. Beats off from long range. Dribbles between 2 defenders. Gets it out for one. Beautiful hand off the iron and out. Rebound taken in by Beats off. And now the Beacons coming back the other way. Fast break 3-on-2. Nice look for Matthew. Got the last shot. The Beacons up by 12 in the first half. Purcell hands it off. Big pass from long range. Drills it. And that's Matthew gets by Kelsey down low for Joey Grassi. Grassi hitting Matthew. Pull up three-pointer and shoots the first half. The Beacons are 3 for 9. Bolton down low. Nice drive from Quinones. Down low for the Owls from successful for UMass Boston. Gets out far side. Matthew looking for another. The other way. 8:30 to go in regulation. As Osborne turns way down low to Williams. That's Bird trying to drive it on Osborne. It's the long go back out. Long 3-point. See if we see any more. Grassi, she wants in on the action. Men on Tennessee intercepted. Quinones saying she can get the free throw. Where they fall, when they fall, I think he after the rim. Grassi from long range. Out of bounds. Instead comes back to Matthew. He's just trying to keep some clock here. 5 seconds off the shot clock.
Still about a minute 20 to go before the start of the second half. Right now we'll take a look at the highlights from that first half. Not a ton to show you, but we'll see what we've got. Alex Gibbs on replay tonight. And it all starts with the Beacons getting a nice basket from Charlie Mitchell to Iser Barnes. Really nice pass from Mitchell to Barnes. And there you see the acrobatic finish. And then it was Southern Maine starting to heat up from 3. Ball kicked into the corner for Agasu, and he knocks it down. One of a pair of late Southern Maine threes as they were able to stretch their lead out to 6. Beacons going back and forth between Barnes and Charles Mitchell to answer that 3 from Agasu. And then a nice finish here from the big man, Janney, as he was able to get around Lewis Jean and put it up and off glass. Teams combined for just 58 points in the first half. Not a high-scoring game. We'll see if we can get better rhythm here in half number 2. 18 fouls. Both teams made it into the single bonus, and for a while there it seemed like we'd be shooting free throws for pretty much the entire half. UMass Boston will send out their same starting 5. Charlie and Charles Mitchell, Dan Powers, Iser Barnes, and Dason Sinelli. So the Beacons will put out 2 guys who missed most of the half with foul trouble. Sinelli and Charlie Mitchell, 2 fouls apiece. For Southern Maine, they're going to switch it up a little bit. DJ Anderson, Christian McHugh, Sean Janney, and Cam Scott, but they're going to go smaller. It's Donnie Agasu at 6'2", 195 in there to start instead of Ian Nagel, 6'7", 219, who got the start, but only played about 3 or 4 minutes. McHugh drives baseline on Barnes, picks up the dribble, needs some help, able to find Anderson. Anderson goes baseline. Sinelli tried to get the swat, and that's a 3rd foul on Dason Sinelli, just 19 seconds in to half number 2. Not what the Beacons were hoping would happen, as it'll be DJ Anderson to the line for 2. On the season, a 77.8% free throw shooter, second best on the team behind McHugh. Southern Maine now 8 of 13 for the free throw line. Anderson is 3 of 3, and he knocks down both. Beacons trailing by a game-high 8 points after the early 2. Beacons' bigger issue was offense than defense in that first half. Comes to the near side for Mitchell, working against this 3-2 zone. Charlie Mitchell against Janney. That's a mismatch. Barnes drives hard over pair of long arms, and the entire Beacons coaching staff asking where the foul was.
Now, you don't blame him at that point. When you get a guy who's getting hacked like that, it's not hard to be Coach Harris over there asking the referees what they were thinking.
Yeah, well, and this time it wasn't just Jason Harris, which typically you expect the head coach to be the lead voice. See every single Beacons assistant with their arms outstretched asking why. That one ends up off of Janney, who was battling with Powers for the rebound.
I guess it's a downside over there of being so tall and long like that when you try to get the rebound over and it just trickles right off your fingertips.
Yeah, I don't think he's complaining about it much, though, as Powers goes hard into the defender, can't finish, but grabs his own rebound. Anderson appears to have been hit in the eye. There's a block from Cam Scott, of all guys. Anderson's walking away from the play. Only 4 defenders out there if the Beacons can hustle, and somehow they let Anderson back into the play. Barnes from an odd angle throws it up like a quarterback for Powers. Charles Mitchell drains it. So after a terrible possession, just really bad for UMass Boston, they end up with 3 points. And Anderson's going to have to see the trainer on Southern Maine sideline. It looked like he was battling with Powers for a rebound and got hit just up underneath the right eye. Hopefully he's okay, as he'll be replaced by Grayson Waterman.
That happens a lot quite frequently in basketball, and you see in a lot of contact sports like soccer as well. When you get that elbow and you're not expecting it, it kind of hits you. Sensitive place there.
Christian McHugh double teamed, and the ball comes out of his hands and out of bounds off of Southern Maine. He couldn't believe it, and neither could Carl Hendrickson, who, remember, was teed up in the first half in the sequence that led to 5 straight Dan Powers free throws. So Hendrickson has had to bite his tongue a little bit here since that call, as he's not been very happy with this 3-man crew. Beacons down by 5 after the 3 from Charles Mitchell. And the turnover. Sinelli, the handoff for Powers, who's blocked. Tries to grab his own rebound, ends up in the hands of Agasu.
The good thing here that Southern Maine is doing is they're collapsing in the paint. They know that the Beacons are trying to feed Dan Powers. They're trying to dry in the defense. But their guys are doing a very good job of collapsing in the paint. And that's like 2 or 3 times now that Dan Powers has been shut down.
This is a bad matchup for the Beacons with Sinelli on McHugh. Double team comes from Powers. Left Janney for a moment, but they were able to get back. Scott drives baseline, but first the foul on Charles Mitchell. That's going to be his third, so quick third foul on both. Actually, that's Charlie. So Charlie Mitchell and Dason Sinelli each with 3 each. And it appears as if Anderson is okay as he's shrugged off the Beacons trainers and is currently grabbing a sip of water behind his bench. .17:35 to go. The Beacons down by 5. Great drive from Agasu, but he can't finish. Grabs his own rebound, but first he was out of bounds. That's almost inexcusable for UMass Boston to let him get to the hoop, but then just couldn't quite get it over the front rim.
And he's lucky that Southern Maine is up by 5 points now, because if they were down and you get an easy lane to the basket like that, but you just can't convert, that's unacceptable.
Charlie Mitchell misses too strong over Janney, and it ends up out of bounds off Agasu as the Beacons, if nothing else, are making it a concerted effort to get the ball to the rim. Still haven't been able to get a lot of points in the paint. Charlie Mitchell finds Charles Mitchell, who will drive over for Powers just inside the 3-point line. 15 on the shot clock. Finds Sinelli on the cut and 1. Janney gave him a nice little tap on top of the head, and 2 of the Beacons' bigs connect for an easy basket.
And I think that's exactly what the Beacons need right now, is they need that little momentum right there, and that's a very nice play done by Sinelli. If we can get that on replay, that'd be great, but great play there. Gets that 3-point play, and this is what the Beacons need. You know, maybe this will be a nice little momentum booster for them, see what they can do and get a stop on the defensive end.
First foul on Southern Maine of the half, first on Janney. Agasu will head to the bench. He's replaced by Kevin Weiser, and it's a 2-point game. Beacons were down by 8 early on in the half, but they've come back with 6 in a row. Anderson right back in there, losing the dribble. The Beacons have the Mitchell twins out ahead. It's Charles Mitchell the shot, and the Beacons have tied it up.
And that's exactly what I was talking about. You get that momentum play over there by the Beacons, and now they're getting it going. Tie game right now. Coach Harris is definitely looking for their team. This full court press is something that I don't think the Huskies are used to this.
Dan Powers meets Janney at the half-court line, and I'd love to see that one again if we can get it on replay. It looked like Powers hit all ball. From our angle, it looked like Powers came from underneath and hit the ball, but they're going to give the second one on Powers, third on the Beacons. Both teams' coaching staffs have not been happy with the officiating. It's certainly not gone one way or another, but I think both teams would kind of like the whistles to be swallowed a little bit, as that 3 is well off the mark from Waterman.
You always look for refs to, not be so sensitive, and you hear Coach say it all the time, let them play, and obviously when there's obvious contact drawn, you got to call it, but you got to allow for some contact.
Barnes misses, Janney the rebound, but it's stripped away by Charles Mitchell. Beacons bench is up and clapping. Henriksen has his hands on his hips at half court, right at the edge of his coaching box. Charlie Mitchell into Janney, and that's the littlest guy on the Beacons going over the biggest guy on Southern Maine. UMass Boston's first lead in a while. They led 7-0 overall, but have barely led since. And now McHugh has it stolen away by Sinelli, who's hacked, and Sinelli goes up, and the Beacons are asking for an intentional foul there, as Sinelli was going up for the dunk, and it's fortunate that neither player was injured. Jason, one of the high flyers on this Beacons team, and that's a situation that could be very dangerous depending on how the player falls. It's the third foul on McHugh, first player for Southern Maine to pick up 3, and third player overall. We've got a media timeout. All of a sudden this game got interesting. A little bit of flow to it, and the Beacons have gotten hot. UMass Boston leads by 2 with 15:49 to go. We'll be back right after this media timeout.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
$15:49 to go in this conference battle. Dason Sinelli to the line for 2 after another Southern Maine turnover. Looking at the stats from the first half, Southern Maine had 6 turnovers in the first half, GG. I think they might already have 4 here in the second half. No, just 3, but still, that's not a good sign less than 5 minutes into the half.
Absolutely, and that's something that you hate to see if you're a coach when you get a team who has been limited to their turnovers in the first half, and then you get into the first 4 or 5 minutes in the second half, and they're already matching their first half turnover points, and that can be huge. And the Beacons, they're known for their quick feet and their quick hands, and with the Mitchell twins and they're running up and down that court like that can easily be some transition points, which the Beacons are looking for to get their momentum going.
Snelling misses the first, knocks down the second. The Beacons at 66% of the day, 10 of 15. And the full court pressure's back. We saw it for most of the first half. And now here in the second half as the Beacons have been getting a lot of turnovers. Anderson nearly had it stripped away. Wide open, Weiser down low, but Boyd gets there. First time we've seen Mike here in the second half. A good defensive play. Waterman left all alone. And, of course, he drains it to tie the game at 37.
At that point, if you're Dason Sinelli, he didn't know whether to step on him and leave his guy open or to cover on his guy, and it's a little lapse of defense over there from the Beacons.
Beacons never quite got their rotation fully back in sorts. Boyd, who was scoreless in the first half, finds Sinelli. Couldn't finish over Janney. And Southern Maine has a chance to take the lead right back. Still 15 minutes left. UMass Boston 3-4 in conference play. Southern Maine at 1-6. They've not won at home this year. Jason Harris mentioned it at halftime. Both of their wins have come on the road, 2-8 there. So there's a nice move from Anderson all the way to the tin to give the lead back to the Huskies. Charlie Mitchell drives on Anderson, tries to kick it out for Charles, who saves it and somehow finds Charlie. Not the prettiest to play, but it ends up with the Beacons still holding on to possession with 14 on the shot clock. Charlie Mitchell back for Boyd, and this time the carelessness costs UMass Boston.
And that's what happens when you try to push the ball a little bit too much there if you're the Beacons. You look for a little bit of patience there, but the shot clock winding down, they might have got a little bit too much pressure on them.
Southern Maine will bring Hendricks back in with McHugh on the bench with 3 fouls. Waterman lost it going up. Beacons have a 3-on-3. It's Sinelli trying to find Charles Mitchell. A lot of contact, no call. Hawkins trailing the play, grabs the rebound, but he travels.
If anything, that should be a foul before it travel on there. I don't know if Mitchell definitely drew some contact on that play. I don't see why there wasn't a foul called on that.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It's certainly a play where 8 times out of 10 in the first half they're calling that, and these referees have just been a little inconsistent.
You got to wonder if there's going to be a makeup call for that one later on in the game.
Certainly Jason Harris is going to ask about one. Hendricks up top. Waterman around his moving screen from Weiser, and that was very obvious. Weiser lifted the right leg just enough to keep Sinelli from closing out, and that'll be the 3rd team foul on Southern Maine. Weiser's first.
Something I love to see from the Beacons here is both teams already have 3 fouls. The Beacons haven't given up a foul yet in about 2 or 3 minutes. If they can keep that up, that's definitely going to help them coming later down the road.
Charlie Mitchell rejected by Janney, and it catches the back of Mitchell's jersey and out of bounds. Sean Janney might be in line for a double-double in points and blocks at this rate. He had 4 blocks in the first half. Not sure exactly how many he's been credited with here in the second half, but he's getting his hands on a lot of shots and altering even more. Scott in transition finds Janney, a beaking out run over, and it's going to be Scott called for the charge as Dennis Hawkins took the contact.
James Hawkins there, Seth. Dennis Houghton, James Hawkins. It's all
Not
right.
the first time I messed that up.
It's all right when you get 2 guys, Charlie and Charles. I've mixed them up so many times.
Appreciate Gigi Bragg, our color commentator, correcting me on that one. Wouldn't have even known. Cross for Michael Boyd, still looking for those first points, and he's strong. Boyd has been the Beacons' best offensive player by far the last 2 games, but he's 0 for today, and that certainly made it a bit more difficult on the Beacons, who have relied heavily on Charles Mitchell, game high 17 of their first 37. Janney, the handoff up top for Hendricks, gives it over for Weiser. Weiser trying to get it over for Scott, down to 10 on the shot clock. They'll set up top with Hendricks. Hendricks, Barnes taken away. Barnes with Hendricks, Janney trailing. Barnes throws it up, he'll draw the foul. Wasn't exactly how you draw it up, but it'll end up with the Beacons shooting 2.
And you can see Iser Barnes there. He's a little frustrated with himself. He wanted that 3-point play, but when he got down there in that one-on-one, he didn't know exactly which move he wanted to do, and sometimes that happens to you, and that's also good defense over there by the Huskies to not allow for that 3-point play.
Hendricks is first as Barnes hits every part of the rim to get the first one to go down and to bring the Beacons within 1. Barnes in the first half, 2 of 3 from the free throw line. Hits both, now 4 of 5, and the Beacons have tied it up. It's now 5 team fouls on Southern Maine. So the Beacons, who gave Southern Maine the early bonus, have a chance potentially here in the second half, but Charles Mitchell gives up a little bit of a ticky-tack foul on the sideline. Certainly was a foul, just maybe not necessary. Second one on Charles. 12:47 left in this one. A huge Little East Conference W on the line. Janney works on Hawkins, and he can't finish. Rebound loose. It's out of bounds off of Janney and Gigi. I don't know from your angle, but that looked like it might have hit the Beacons last.
No, I thought it hit Hawkins last. I'm not going to lie. I really thought that it was going to stay Huskies' ball.
And they do reverse it. Good job by the referees to come over and converse. The guy down low didn't have the greatest angle, but the trail ref on the near side changed the call, and it's great to see the referees making the right call. As Jason Harris is asking about the shot clock, he's got a point. Maybe take 2 or 3 seconds off. Nothing serious, but they'll leave it up at 30. 12:35 to go in the game. 35 seconds away from a media timeout as Weiser's all alone on the inbound. Steps back and hits a 3 to give Southern Maine the lead at 42-38. Hawkins and Barnes playing catch back up top for Boyd. 16 on the shot clock. Boyd over for Barnes, takes a 3 from the wing, trying to answer, and he hits it over Weiser.
And how about that? Iser Barnes saying, hey, you can hit one, let me show you I can hit one too. Great to see there from a senior.
42-42. Anderson looking to drive behind the back, dribble, finds a wide open Janney, the 2-hand slam. And McHugh able to steal the inbounds. Janney going hard to the rim, and we've got a charge. Janney can't believe it, just his second, but that's a big play from Charlie Mitchell, as that could have been disastrous for the Beacons heading into the media timeout otherwise.
I really thought that Janney on that play, that was an excellent first dunk, but when they got that steal, I really thought he was going to go up for a second dunk there, and Charles Mitchell just being a brave one there and taking that charge for the team, which is a momentum killer for the Huskies, to say the least.
Well, yeah, you have a chance to go up potentially 4, maybe even 5 if he was fouled on the play. Instead, the Beacons will get it back with a chance to tie or take the lead after this media timeout. We'll take a quick commercial break and then be back. 11:51 to go. The Beacons down 2.
What separates UMass Boston from other schools is the fact that a large percentage of students commute. For me, it takes 2 hours each day to go to and from school, but every second has been worth it because the students that come here are serious about learning, they value their education, and understand where it'll take them in the future. This is what UMass Boston means to me.
Two-point game. It's been a fun second half. We haven't seen all that many points, but certainly a little bit more excitement than the first. Southern Maine led 32-26, but there was just no flow to that half. Seen a few less fouls here in the second. Boyd over for Barnes, who faked it, drew space, and knocks down a 3. faking out his defender, faked the ball to the near side. There was no one there, but it was enough to create space.
And that's back-to-back threes over there for Iser Barnes, and that's just getting him going, and he's one of the Beacon's better defensive players, and if you can get him to produce on the defensive end, it's going to pay off on the offensive end as well.
Gives the Beacons the lead right back, and for Iser, the big thing about that one is we've seen him go with this same patented ball fake, the up fake, throughout his 3 years at UMass Boston. That's a new move we haven't seen a ton of, and it worked perfectly. Three was well off the mark. The lead pass is knocked out of bounds off Southern Maine. And it'll go back to the Beacons with 11:04 left. Both teams will sub in a starter. Jason Sinelli replaces Charles Mitchell. And Christian McHugh in there for Christian Hendricks. Barnes from straight away. Can he keep it going? Rims in and out. And Sinelli can't bat the rebound to his own team. Beacons double teaming McHugh in the backcourt. And McHugh able to find Janney. It's Weiser wide open down low. And he can't quite catch it. He throws it over to the Beacons. Beacons have numbers 3-on-2, and it's an and one for Charlie Mitchell. Fearless from the freshman, and the Beacons have a 3-point lead. It could become 4.
And what an excellent play there by Charlie Mitchell. Just driving straight to the hoop. He said, hey, 2-on-1, let me show you what I can do. And that's just great basketball by him. Fearless, absolutely. And we'll see if he can turn this to a 4-point play and 3-point play, and extend lead.
And while his brother Charles has struggled from the free throw line, Charlie's up to 73.5%, knocks down the lone free throw. We'll see Charles check in for Iser Barnes, so the Beacons replace their hottest shooter right now with their top scorer. 10:42 to go, the Beacons with their largest lead in a while at 4 points, 48-44. DJ Anderson, the freshman, all the way from Houston, Texas. Southern Maine always seems to have some players from all over the nation. This year they have a player from Spain, and we haven't seen Mark Borgeson out of Rancho Cucamonga, California. One of my favorite places in the entire United States, if nothing else, just to say the name. Anderson over a Beacon, and it's going to be a block. Charles Mitchell is whistled for the foul as one number 5 connects over another. And Anderson has a chance for the 3-point play. That's now 3 fouls on both Charles and Charlie Mitchell for the Beacons.
And this game's just been so back and forth for both teams that you wonder, like we said, Seth, in the first half, that momentum changer. And you wonder what's going to happen here in these last 10 minutes. It's got both teams get their chances on the offensive end and defensive end to make excellent plays, and it's going to come down to the wire.
Boyd takes the contested 2, misses, but Powers follows up the rebound, draws contact, and 1. We're seeing a slew of N1 opportunities. A great play from Powers to wait, and there was the pump fake you've been asking for.
Absolutely, and that's what you love to see from Dan Powers over there, and that's a veteran move. He gets the rebound, and that's all you got to do. Like I said before, that's what you have to get Janney to do. You got to get him to commit to your first shot, pump fake, and get him to get called on that foul. Perfect play there by Dan Powers.
Powers knocks down another free throw to stretch the lead to 5. Janney had no fouls in the first half. He's got 3 of the team's 8 here in the second half. Beacons will be shooting free throws the rest of the way. The Beacons have only been called for 5 as that ball goes off of Sinelli. Beacons almost had a chance for a steal. There's Charlie Mitchell, a second late. And Charlie's now the first player with 4 fouls. We've got some pushing and shoving, and I think they just teed up Agasu away from the play. Gigi, I wasn't watching it, but there was some pushing and shoving right underneath the hoop.
We can get that on replay if that's possible to see what's going on there. Maybe some words that were spoken, that some players didn't like there. But I was just about to say, if the Beacons can hold off from fouling and use the Huskies' fouls to their advantage to get themselves to the foul line, that's what they need to do. But then you get the call called on Charlie Mitchell there. Now he's got 4, so that complicates things for the Beacons.
So it's a matching technicals. Dan Powers and Donnie Agasu, 1 for each side. For Powers, that's now his 3rd. So the Beacons have 4 players with 3 or more fouls. Agasu picks up his 2nd. Not necessarily a trade the Beacons would love. 17 fouls now on the Beacons, 8 on Southern Maine. McHugh for Janney, out beyond the 3-point line, a little bit far for him. Back for Agasu. And McHugh with it. McHugh was pretty good offensively in the first half. Has been quiet here in the second. Janney working just outside the block, double teamed. Anderson over Boyd, and they're going to call a shot clock violation. UMass Boston catches a break there. The lead is 5. See if UMass Boston can pull away. They got off to a great 7-0 start early on, but since then, neither team has really been able to gain any breathing room, as there's a terrific feed from Powers to find Sinelli, and the Beacons lead is 7. Ball almost stolen away by Boyd, and we've got a traveling on Agasu.
And you see there just a hype from Dason Sinelli and Michael Boyd, and that's what the Beacons need right now. You know, they've got a 7-point lead. That was a great play by Powers and Sinelli, and now they get a turnover, and this is the momentum builder. This is where the Beacons need to get their momentum going, hit some shots, and, you know, pull away with the lead a little bit.
Agasu is replaced by Waterman for Southern Maine. Also, Gigi, this is the difference between potentially, in terms of psyche, you have a 2-15 team and a 9-9 team. Can the Beacons, who are the favorites in this game, start to pull away, use their home court advantage, or can Southern Maine keep hanging around down 7 with 9 minutes left? Barnes, guarded closely by McHugh, looks to drive, leaves it out for Sinelli. Once again, he's fouled. Anderson gives the foul. That's the 9th on Southern Maine. And Dason Sinelli, who's been one of the most aggressive Beacons here in the second half, will get 2 free throws.
And he's not the tallest of guys in the Beacons roster. He's standing at 6'1". You get guys like Hawkins, Kevin Lewis-Jean, and we haven't seen much of them today, and you get to see Dason Sinelli playing the 5 spot, and he's doing an excellent job.
Well, the issue with Sinelli, just like Janney, is he's listed at 6'1", but he has the agility, the length and the jumping ability of a guy a couple inches taller. I mean, Janney could probably size up with a 6'10" guy if not for his lack of girth, and Sinelli easily can play a little bit bigger than his 6'1" frame. Sinelli goes 1 of 2. It's an 8-point Beacons lead, their largest of the game. On the handoff, it's Scott trying to feed it down low for Waterman. Sinelli caught up, and they're going to say no foul there. Look for a moment as if we were going to see a whistle. Instead, it's just a basket from Waterman. A break for the Beacons, as that would have been 4 on Sinelli. Boyd pushes it over for Powers underneath Janney. Can't connect. Gets his own rebound, blocked by Janney, and it ends up in the hands of Waterman. Seen this trick before, and Waterman forced to slow it down. Up top for Janney, looking to drive on Powers, needs help, picks it up, and he'll give it over for Scott with 13 on the shot clock. Sinelli trailing him, gives it over for Anderson, and Anderson finishes over for Sinelli. Back-to-back baskets for Southern Maine to cut it to 4.
Just when I was saying it, we were thinking that the Beacons are going to pull away with this lead a little bit. 2 easy baskets for Southern Maine, and they're right back into this game.
Barnes goes downhill, but Janney able to block him from behind. Sean Janney is having a phenomenal defensive game. There's the reach in from Iser Barnes. That's the 8th on the Beacons.
And as much as he thinks that he didn't do it, when you're looking at it from this view and quite frankly any other view, he drives that shoulder down a little bit and drives into the other guy, and that's a reach in foul with any ref.
It's the 2nd on Barnes, 8th on the Beacons. McHugh will have the 1-and-1 after this media timeout. We'll be back. It's a 4-point game here at the Clark with 7:30 to play.
Paris changed my life, and I got there through UMass. Those very specific seminal moments in Paris. The subway. A man in a tuxedo walked in, and a woman in a long gown. And it was stunning. It all hit me. It was like a lightning bolt. There was this world of beauty and style that I wanted to be a part of. That was the beginning of the journey. And that all came through the University of Massachusetts. And that was really a key moment for me. That's one of those moments you never forget.
Gigi, really quick before the play resumes, let's take a look at some highlights from these last couple of exciting minutes of action. And it starts with a phenomenal play from Charlie Mitchell after Weiser couldn't make the catch. You see Mitchell all the way to the 10 and end 1, and this started a string. I think we had 3 or 4 of them. This time it was Powers driving the offensive rebound, drawing against Janney. And there you see Powers get some help, and then it was a little bit of pushing and shoving there. We didn't see that. We were both looking down. It was Agastu and Powers after the whistle had already been blown on Charlie Mitchell, and that's what caused the double technicals.
In that, you just see the plays, and you see how well the Beacons have transitioned from the first half of this game and what they're doing with Janney. You know, they're really making him work. They've drawn a couple of fouls on him already. They started to get him into foul trouble. I think he already has 3 this half. And with 7.5 minutes to play, that's a lot of time in basketball. And if the Beacons keep working on him and get him into a little bit more foul trouble, without Janney on the floor, they don't really have another big man.
Christian McHugh, 2 of 2, as there's a pass that's forced by Boyd looking for Barnes. And now Southern Maine, who's already on a 6-0 run, has a chance to tie or take the lead. Not exactly a good sequence of plays for UMass Boston after they push the lead to 8. Anderson has had a couple buckets, dishes it off for McHugh, goes downhill, tries to get it off for Janney. We're going to get a blocking call on Powers after the ball had already left the hands. That's a tough one for Powers and the Beacons to take. It'll lead to a pair of free throws. Well, 1-and-1, but likely a pair of free throws for the conference's top free throw shooter, Christian McHugh.
And that's Powers' 4th foul. And if I'm not mistaken, you got Charlie Mitchell's with 4 fouls. Dason Sinelli is 3. And now Powers with 4. And like I said before, he's trying to get Janney into foul trouble, and Powers ends up with 4 himself.
McHugh hits the first. He's hit 3 in a row now. And we've got a Beacons technical foul. UMass Boston can't believe it. It didn't even look like they were very surprised about it because they weren't necessarily talking to the ref. And this will give Southern Maine a chance to take the lead, just like a technical foul on Carl Henriksen in the first half led the Beacons to get back in the game. As McHugh hits the first of the technical fouls, he'll get 1 more on the technical fouls and then another free throw on the initial 2 on the 1-and-1 as McHugh hits both. McHugh has now hit 6 straight free throws and he'll get a 7th as his team is up 55-54 at this point.
He's definitely not the guy that you want on the charity stripe shooting free throws for the Husky if you're the Beacons right now.
McHugh can't hit the last one. He's missed 2 today, but I think he's had close to 12 attempts, so the Beacons down by a single point after a 9-0 Southern Maine run. Boyd from the near wing looks to drive, still scoreless, puts it up. He's finally on the board. Those are 2 big points by UMass Boston's freshman out of Malden.
Nah, maybe it just takes a couple of minutes here, even though he's been playing since the first half. But Michael Boyd finally getting some points in the game, and to be honest, it's the last 6 minutes. It's the last couple minutes in the game that really count the most. So if he can come out and put some points up for the Beacons, that's what means the most.
Scoreboard currently reads 56-54 in favor of UMass Boston. I thought it was 56-55. And either way, Anderson gives the team the lead. It's now 50. I still think it's 58. The Beacons table took away a point, but I'm not quite sure where. Charlie Mitchell for Michael Boyd. Southern Maine leading by a point with 5:54 to play. Boyd just scored his first points on the last possession, takes a contested 3, knocks it down. Michael Boyd had been red hot coming into today. He's got 5 in a row, and the Beacons lead is 2.
Hate to say I told you so, but kind of told you so on that one.
Hey, I'll take it, Gigi. If it means that Michael Boyd can start scoring the way we know he's capable of. There's Grayson Waterman, the answer, around the world and in. We've got a tie game. For 2 teams that don't shoot the ball all that well, they look pretty good right now. Charles Mitchell leaving it off for Sinelli, couldn't make the catch. Would have been an easy 2 otherwise after the good drive from Charles Mitchell. 15 left on the shot clock, Janney away from the basket. Boyd looks to drive, 4-foot floater, well short, Janney the rebound. 5 minutes left, all tied at 59 in a key LEC game. Beacons battling for a home playoff game. Southern Maine looking to avoid those top 2 teams in the conference. Keene State and Eastern Connecticut State by far the scariest teams, with Western Connecticut State also at 6-1. Janney up top, Waterman a deep 3, and it's way too strong. Janney fights for the rebound with Hawkins. Coming away with it is Charles Mitchell, and he takes a football hit there from Waterman. Not intentional, just a little bit of shoulder to shoulder. And the much smaller Mitchell
falls to the floor. Second on Waterman, and we're going to be seeing free throws the rest of the way. Both teams the double bonus with 4:37 to play.
Let me tell you, from playing in soccer, when you go up against someone who's bigger than you, it is not that hard for you to be flung 5 feet across the court in this aspect.
Gigi Braga, our color commentator, member of the UMass Boston women's soccer and softball team. Powers will replace Hawkins. As Charlie Mitchell, the reliable free throw shooter in the family, misses the first. Not to take anything away from Charles Mitchell, his very good scoring brother. Charlie's second is off the mark as well. The Beacons can't take the lead on this possession. May have jinxed Charlie on that particular opportunity. Janney trying to go down low for Anderson, and Charles Mitchell, actually, that's fortunate. Number 5 instead of number 4 will be called for his 4th foul. Just trying to keep Anderson away from the hoop, and he's called for the push. The Beacons are in some serious foul trouble at this point. 4 fouls on Charlie and Charles Mitchell, 4 fouls on Dan Powers, 3 on Dason Sinelli. UMass Boston doesn't want to go much deeper into their rotation, and they already have to. Right now, the Beacons, I think, in the second half have only gone 7 deep.
And if you're the Huskies right now, when you know these 3 guys and 3 out of the 5 starters for the Beacons are in this much foul trouble, you're going directly to them. And it's tough for the Beacons. It's not just 1 guy, but it's 3. So the Huskies have multiple options on who they want to go after.
Anderson 1 of 2 to give his team the lead. Powers thought about the 3, goes downhill, drew contact, no call. Looked like it was Waterman and Janney who might have hit him a little bit on the back. It's McHugh into the front court. He drew contact, double team. Powers got a hand on it from behind and knocks it loose. Charlie Mitchell draws contact, and after missing 2 the last time, he'll have a chance to get 2 back right here. But with 3:59 to play, that's our last media timeout. Should be an exciting finish. Stick with us here in the Beacons Broadcast Network. Southern Maine leads by a point here in LEC play.
The University of Massachusetts Boston. It's just minutes from downtown, and the Princeton Review calls it one of the best values in the country. A nationally recognized institution of academic excellence and research, UMass Boston offers more than 150 undergraduate and graduate programs, 16 Division III sports, and more than 100 student organizations. To learn more about the opportunities waiting for you at UMass Boston, visit in person or online. UMass Boston, a research university with a teaching soul.
One-point game with 3:59 to play. Possession arrow in favor of the Beacons. Both teams already in the double bonus. The Beacons have 3 players with 4 fouls and another with 3. For Southern Maine, they have 2 players with 3 fouls, McHugh and Janney. They're 2 of their top players. So we'll see how this ends up as Charlie Mitchell misses his 3rd straight free throw. Came in shooting 73%, but the Beacons just have not been able to connect late. They're now 15 of 24 from the free throw line. As misses a second, 4 straight missed free throws. The Beacons are now 15 of 25. And Gigi, looking back to last year, UMass Boston's biggest struggle came from the free throw line as the Beacons went 11 of 25 up at Southern Maine in a 4-point loss.
And I hate to say it, but with both teams in the double bonus, this game is going to be slowed down, and there are going to be a lot of foul shots. And if the Beacons can't seem a way to get those shots to go down, this is going to be a long night for them.
Anderson from the corner, well off the mark. Sinelli the rebound. Sinelli stutter steps his way through traffic into the front court. Charlie Mitchell will take a baseline jumper. Can't hit that one either. And Anderson the rebound. Barnes is going to head back to the scorer's table to join Christian McHugh. 1 player for each side. Got a timeout. And it's Southern Maine who will call this one. 3:13 to go. We'll take another quick commercial break and then be back. UMass Boston trails by a point with 3:13 to play.
Celebrate the soggy shoes and the slow starts. Celebrate the lessons learned along the way. These are the wins. Not the shiny, nail-biting kind. These are the last a lifetime kind.
$60-59 in favor of Southern Maine. It'll be Huskies ball out of the timeout. Beacons have been shooting themselves in the foot from the free throw line, 15 of 25. I say that, but Southern Maine's not much better, 15 of 23. This is going to come down to a game of maybe who wants it more or which team gives it away, as teams offensively have struggled at certain junctures. Beacons led by 8 at 54-46 before Southern Maine came back on a 9-0 run. Since then, it's been very close. Janney over for Waterman, attempts a deep three and knocks it down. Grayson Waterman, the junior from Berwick, Maine, had a season-high 9 points on Saturday. He's had the hot hand today, gives his team a 4-point lead.
And that's something that the Beacons got to stop there. And
Boyd threw a double team, and he's called for a double dribble after Waterman nearly collected it.
And with that, back to that three over there by Waterman. And with the Beacons playing good defense like that down in the zone, and you're just giving up a three from downtown, that was probably close to an NBA three over there from Waterman. That's just good skill at that point. But the Beacons can't be giving up these points.
Waterman had 9 on Saturday, has 9 more today, and an identical 4 of 8 stat line from the field as Waterman picks up his dribble. The Beacons have created offense through turnovers, and Southern Maine was forced to use another timeout. Their lead is 4 with 2:25 to play. And we'll take one final timeout here as the Beacons look to come up with a comeback. They find themselves in a tough spot here with only 125 seconds remaining.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
Out of the timeout, Anderson finds McHugh out there with Waterman, Janney, and Scott. Power strips it away, loses his footing though, and he's forced to give it up for Boyd as the Beacons nearly had an easy basket. Boyd, backdoor cut for Mitchell, who will dribble it all the way back up top. Powers couldn't handle it, finds Sinelli. Janney is there and one. How many times have the Beacons been able to just get enough here in the second half on Janney, and that's the 4th on the big man for Southern Maine.
And Dason Sinelli has been their go-to guy for all of this, and that's something that you love to see from him. And he's just a sophomore, and he's just got that basketball IQ that you love to see, and he's doing exactly what we mentioned up here at halftime. He's getting that contact drawn on Janney and getting him in foul trouble.
And what a big free throw to cut it to 1. The Beacons had missed 4 in a row. Barnes again all over McHugh, but somehow the referees holding their whistles in their pockets, at least for the moment. 1-point game with 1:55 to go. 15 on the shot clock. Waterman gets Powers going the wrong way. We've got a foul. Who will it be? Is it the 5th on Powers or the 4th on Sinelli? It's going to be 4 on Sinelli. So now the Beacons have 4 players out there with 4 fouls, and UMass Boston might not have enough guys out there for overtime.
Well, at this point, they're hoping the game doesn't go into overtime.
Waterman too strong on the first, so Southern Maine now 15 of 24. One more missed free throw, and they'll match the Beacons at 15 of 25. And Waterman drains the second. So that's a season high for Waterman of 10 points. Beacons down by 2. Barnes just back into the game. Finds Boyd. Boyd's had the hot hand in the second half, and he goes baseline and ties it at 64.
And like I mentioned, it doesn't really matter when you really get those points going, as long as you get them going in this game. And you know, he's got him going in the last 5 minutes of this game, and that's exactly what's been helping the Beacons.
Give him 7 points all in the last 10 minutes of the second half. Janney tries a 3 off the side of the rim. Boyd the rebound. Minute 17 to go. The Beacons should look for a 2-for-1 here. Try to slow it down and make sure they get at least one more chance than the Huskies. 20 on the shot clock, a minute 7 to go. Boyd gets a double pick, dribbles it to the near side for Charles Mitchell and right back. See what Boyd can do against Janney. Looks to drive right. The scoop shot. He's got 9, and UMass Boston leads. Under a minute to play. 30-second difference between shot clock and game clock. Southern Maine not likely to drag this one all the way down, though. Down to 20 on the shot clock. 45 in the game. Beacons with a late lead. Beacons trailed by 4 before this run. McHugh, a crossover dribble, drives hard. Drew contact and finishes nonetheless. 37.1 left.
Christian McHugh on that play, just going straight to the basket. He was fearless on that and tying this game up for his team.
Love to see that out of your senior captain. The Beacons are not using their timeout yet. 16 on the shot clock. There's a 7-second difference between shot clock and game clock. Southern Maine's bench up and cheering defense. Powers kicks it out for Boyd. He's had the hot hand from the wing. Drains it. The Beacons lead by 3 with 11.3 left. Michael Boyd could not find the basket for the first 30 minutes of this game. All of a sudden, Boyd's got 12, and he gives the Beacons the lead for the second time in the final 2 minutes.
And as much as we may have harped on him for that first half or whatever, if you're looking at the stats for this game, you don't really care when this kid scored. He's got his points over here tonight, and he's done it exactly when it's mattered.
So, Gigi, down by 3, Southern Maine only with 11.3 seconds left. You're probably thinking 3 here, especially since the Beacons would be shooting 2. Are you looking for McHugh, Anderson, maybe Waterman? Who's your go-to guy on this last possession?
Well, Waterman so far has been really hot. Stats only say that he's shooting at 25.3%, but at least in this game, he's been he's hit 2 of 4, so he's hit at 50% for today. But then you get your senior captain like McHugh, who is cool, calm, and composed under pressure, and he's a great three-point shooter as well. I think at this point it's really on just who's open. You're trying to draw out a play for a specific person, but you never know what the Beacons defense is going to come out with, and you never know who they're going to put on who. And at this point, it's whoever's open, whoever feels the more confident with their shot off, and that's who's probably going to get the shot. Probably the final shot if I'm the Huskies here.
Southern Maine 6 of 20 from behind the arc. Cam Scott's 2 of 5. Grayson Waterman's 2 of 4. Kevin Weiser 1 of 2, but he's not in there. It'll be Scott receiving the inbound from Waterman out there with Janney, McHugh, and Anderson. McHugh trying to get open. Barnes trailing him. Down to 3 seconds. McHugh gets a contested 3. No foul, and the Beacons are going to win by 3 points at home for a second straight year against Southern Maine. Another contested 3 that Southern Maine wanted to call, didn't get it. And for the first time ever, UMass Boston has swept Southern Maine here in Boston.
And you saw Coach Henriksen there. He was not happy. As soon as that shot went off, his hands were up in the air. There was no whistle called. And you could see the frustration and the anger off of his face and off the face of the Huskies. He just wasn't having any of that. And, you know, at that point, it's a referee's decision. And you hope that they got the right call on that point, as our vantage point here wasn't as good as theirs was down there, but that's a tough loss if you're the Huskies.
Gigi, real quick, we're going to try to get that up on replay. I'm going to run down, but you can take us through that last play and see maybe whether there should have been a call or not, as McHugh went up through traffic trying to tie the game.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at this play. As we see here, you get Scott taking the ball, and you get McHugh up there, and he's in between Iser Barnes. I think he ran into his own player. I think that was Scott. I think when he went up for that shot, he definitely got some contact, but it wasn't off of any Beacons. It was rather off of his own teammate. So it is what it is. Beacons end up with a win at 69-66 over Southern Maine, and we'll take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with Seth down with Coach Harris.
Psychology is about understanding the individual and understanding the mind. The main reason why I want to combine psychology and business degrees is because I want to understand the business decisions that are made. I'm Nurçin Çelebi. I'm from Turkey originally. I'm a senior at the 5-year BA to MBA program at UMass Boston. I think in management, the biggest mistake you can make is to not listen. So I want to be able to step into a company and say, here's what you're doing now, and here's how you can improve it. I moved here when I was 16 for high school. Moving from Turkey, it was a rough journey for me because when you don't really speak the language that well, and when you don't really fit in the crowd, it's very easy to disappear. But I decided not to give up, and UMass helped me. I wanted to be able to improve myself. I wanted to be able to try new things. And I think UMass gave me a really good head start on that.
Joined by head coach Jason Harris. Coach, obviously a lot closer than you would have liked it. But in that second half, it seemed like you were a little bit more effective around the basket. That opened up some maybe easier three-point looks. Were you happy with your second half adjustments offensively?
First, I want to apologize to you, Seth. You didn't deserve that. Listen, the whole time I thought it was our defense that was going to jumpstart us. We talked about the gaps being there to drive. We didn't want to settle for threes. So again, I think Dason Sinelli brought a lot of energy to start the second half. He kind of bought some time for Dan and Ice and these other guys to wake up a little bit, but that was a good win. We had no business winning that game. We did not deserve to win that game, and we found, we just grinded it out and we found a way to win. So that's what it's about, and that's what we've been trying to teach.
One reason you were able to win this game was Michael Boyd, after a really bad first 30 minutes offensively, came alive, 12 points in the final 5-6 minutes. What does that mean for a freshman to scuffle his way through 30 minutes and then to come alive and to really help you with a couple of go-ahead baskets?
Mike's a tough kid. I think all of our freshmen, they're all tough. It's the first time through the season for a lot of these guys, so some of them are grinding down a little bit. Mike's an emotional kid, and if you challenge Mike, a lot of time Mike responds, and Mike did a good job tonight in the second half. I think it was a total team effort in the second half, and again, we just found a way to win. It wasn't pretty, Seth. I think we shot in the 20s and some tough calls and really weird flow of the game, but that's why we make practice so hard, because you never know what you're going to get in a conference game, and we always say it, every LEC game is 4 points or less. Every LEC game, 2-15 just brought you to a 3-point game, and it took a late one. So if we're not locked in, who knows?
One of the impressive things about having such a young squad is that you guys have not dipped below 500, despite some bumps and bruises. Up to 10-9. I don't mean to jinx y'all. I'll knock on wood after this.
We haven't gone 2 games above 500 either.
Well, you had 3 to start.
Shut up.
But my question is, does that show the maturity of this group? I know that you have a lot of freshmen, but just the fact that they're battle tested in high school, and that probably will help you not just going the rest of this year, but going forward, where this group just never lets themselves go into a long run.
Well, I think most of the high school kids, most of the freshmen we have, I don't care where you played high school, there's some really good programs around here. Most times you're not ready to step in, especially this conference. There's some maybe conferences that aren't as competitive, but our kids they found a way. They've gotten tougher, they've gotten better. Just the growth of some of our young guys that play a lot, they're getting better, Seth. And again, that's a long answer, and it's not what you asked me. I don't care. We found a way to win.
Coach, I appreciate your frankness. Congratulations on the win. We'll head back up top, look at the highlights from a very exciting second half, and then bring you the final stats on our post-game show here on the Beacons Broadcast Network. UMass Boston holds on for the second straight year here at home by just 3 points. Coach Jason Harris said that all these conference games go down to the wire. The Beacons holding on 69-63. And Gigi, I think Coach was right. We tried to get him to talk about the offense. I think it was the defense, creating a lot of turnovers in that second half and using that to create some points off of turnovers as the Beacons were able to hold on against a Southern Maine team that really gave them everything they could handle in this LEC battle.
I really think it was that full court press that they started playing more of that in the second half of this game, and it got the Huskies a little riled up there, and that definitely caused a lot of more turnovers, and that's what got their momentum going in the second half.
Right now we'll take a look at the team statistics. Talked about it going in. Neither team shoots the ball all that well. Let's see how the numbers fare. Southern Maine, probably one of their better marks of the year, 45.8%, 22 of 48. The issue is UMass Boston, while only shooting 33.8, shot 22 of 65. The Beacons had 17 more attempts than the Huskies, thanks to 14 offensive rebounds compared to 4 for Southern Maine, and 18 forced turnovers by the Huskies. That is a wild stat, Gigi, that the Beacons shot, 12% worse despite it hitting the same amount of field goals, and that's a huge reason why UMass Boston held on despite shooting very poorly.
Yeah, when you look at the statistics, they tell you one thing, and then you look further in depth to it, and then you can kind of see where the final score is coming from, and that just comes down to hustle on the rebounding aspect from the Beacons. When you get guys that are getting their boards up and they're getting those offensive rebounds and getting second chance opportunities, and that can really help those shooters into, you miss one and then you get a rebound and you go back up and you try to redeem yourself there.
Right now we'll take a look at the team leaders for these two sides. Charles Mitchell had 17 points. You see 2 with 12 there for UMass Boston. That includes Michael Boyd, who had all 12 of his points in the second half, especially late. 10 points and 4 boards from Mason Snelly, 10 points and 12 rebounds from Dan Powers, who now has a double-double in 4 of 5 games against Southern Maine. On the other side, for the Huskies, Anderson stays red hot. DJ with another double-figure game, 17 from him, 15 from Christian McHugh. And then the other guy to point out, man, he is fun to watch. Sean Janney, 8 points, 10 rebounds, 6 blocks. A phenomenal showing from the junior transfer out of Plymouth State.
And that's just, I mentioned it before. If Janney had got, another layup or an easy point, he would have got that beautiful double-double there, and just with 6 blocks. You don't see that very often. But a great job there by Sean Janney, and great performance tonight, even though dealing with all those 4 fouls. But great job by him, and great job by the Beacons also to contain him to only 8 points, or at this point I thought he was going off for much more than he already had.
Finally, we'll take a look around the LEC scoreboard. Just some interesting scores to look at real quick. Eastern Connecticut State, the undefeated team in the conference, able to hold off Western in a rivalry game. UMass Dartmouth moves to 4-4, just like the Beacons, with the win over Rhode Island College, who the Beacons will see on Saturday. And Keene State rushes past rival Plymouth State 95-76, so the Beacons will stay in a tie for 4th place in the conference. Finally, we'll take a look ahead. UMass Boston at Rick. I mentioned that. That game is on Saturday. Then they're at Eastern next Saturday before hosting UMass Dartmouth in a game that could determine who has that 4 seed overall, as the Beacons already won at UMass Dartmouth last week. Finally, our production team, and what a tremendous job this group of ladies did. My name is Seth Dorensky, your producer and play-by-play guy. Alyssa Fugel and Rachel Maslak, our directors. Alex Gibbs on Instant Replay. Melanie Fitzgerald, Cassidy Gata, and Alyssa Tully doing camera. Thanks so much for watching, folks. UMass Boston, for the first time ever, sweeps a doubleheader against Southern Maine here at home, as the Beacons win by 8 in the women's game and 3 in the men's game. UMass Boston with a nice little home doubleheader, and we hope you join us this weekend for a couple of men's hockey games on the Beacons Broadcast Network.